let's go ahead and get started. So a little bit about myself, over 30 years, and it's going to hold at 30 because it just keeps going longer and longer, reminding me how long I've been in this business, and lots of experience, phases 1 through 4, all different types of populations, and had the good fortune to begin in a pediatric population before there were even really pediatric, what we call acknowledged pediatric studies. That just came a little bit later, and we already had, quite a pediatric population, which fortunately they grew up and then, became adults for our adult population studies. The PD patients' parents wanted to, also become, patients in clinical studies, so that's also how we got our adult population. And currently I do consulting, things like oversight visits, which are monitoring visits, just with a little more focused, kind of in between monitoring and auditing. Recently completed a gap analysis for a study that we will be submitting to the FDA, and then, I assist in preparation of the clinical study reports and submissions to the FDA also. So our learning objectives are to navigate the FDA approval process for a new drug, describe what an investigational new drug is and the application of an investigation new drug app, the contents of that initial submission and then subsequent submissions. Describe what an NDA, subsequent follow-up submissions. Describe what an NDA is, a new drug application. So that's once all the studies have been done, the sponsor is comfortable with the data that has been retrieved. They create this big, huge report, submitted to the FDA, which then goes through that process. And then I'll discuss throughout the FDA IND and the NDA review process what happens at the FDA. You can quickly say that this is going to give us an overview of the FDA's role in drug development, describing the drug development process and, letting you know, and this is good for you, the differences between non-clinical and preclinical drug testing. Review the requirements for the IND, give you a quick overview, which you're probably familiar with, through the phases of drug development, which is phase 1, 2, 3. Summarize the requirements for the new drug application, and then we'll talk a little bit about what happens once approval has been given and, what happens in phase 4 clinical studies. You'll see here that I put down an honorable mention referring to ICH E6R3. You can rarely do a study in the United States now where you're not accepting the fact, where you do not accept the fact or you don't mention that good clinical practice or ICH E6 is being followed. And this is not what this course is about. It recently underwent a revision, final approval for what is revision 3, and then there are, I think 2 more appendixes that are being reviewed and will be added to this. But the revision occurred in January 2025. Studies have now, sponsors have now implemented it. But I did want to mention that you may see, if you're ever given a protocol, where it does refer to that. But again, we're going to focus in strictly on FDA and the Code of Federal Regulations. So the FDA is the federal government's primary consumer protection agency. if you read the news or if you, kind of get your little news briefs on your phone, you'll see, you may see lots of information about FDA and their recalling and recalls and such. And so oftentimes the recalls occur because of the fact that the FDA has gone in and they've found some, objectionable practices or objectionable findings that have to be corrected. And so FDA is more than just, drugs, pharmaceuticals, devices. It, goes into food and such, and that's why you see a lot about the FDA. Now, it was founded in 1930. It enforces the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act of 1938. Its purpose is really, bottom line, to safeguard the consumer by applying its requirements to articles under FDA jurisdiction from the moment of their conception through the process. And so this is through the lifetime of the availability to the consumer. So regards to pharmaceuticals and medical devices, they really are ensuring the safety and the efficacy of all of the pharmaceuticals. And so what they will do is they review approval applications for the new products. They will track the performance of the product. They have the ability to go in and inspect the manufacturing facilities. They provide the guidance for the manufacturers. And I mentioned that this is really kind of focusing in on FDA and U.S., but if there is a study that is being done under an investigational new drug application, an IND, and it's being performed outside of the U.S., then those studies being conducted outside of the U.S. under IND must also follow the Code of Federal Regulations. So it really begins and ends with the FDA. This is their mission statement, which I'm not going to, read, other than the fact that it's summarized just what we've been saying before, which is to, protect the consumer. And then how they fulfill it is they enforce the Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. They also enforce, the Fair Packaging Labeling Act, Public Health Service Act, and the Radiation Control for Health and Safety Act. They really are the ones that make the decision about whether new drugs are allowed on market or not. We've recently seen some medications or new investigational products that have gone in for approval and have not been approved. So it will be interesting to see if there are any changes now in how the approval process is. I don't think there'll be any changes in the approval process. It'll be interesting to see, kind of what the metrics are between approved and not approved, drugs. So there are issues, regulations such as IND and NDA to implement the relevant laws and to let the industry know as to what the standards are and the requirements that it meets. So there are lots of rules, regulations, and guidance documents that the folks in drug development must follow, but they're also available on FDA.gov, which is the FDA website. So, as a project assistant, it's a good thing just to have that on your desktop so that you can, the link to it on your desktop so that you can just, hit it and then, look up what you want and really go to the source. Many companies will have their own, I'll use the word interpretation, but the way that they will take that regulation and how they're going to implement it. So the regulation is written pretty broadly. It is the minimum standard as to how to get a investigational product approved. And then what companies then do is they'll take that regulation, review it with the guidance documents that are also available, and then implement how that company is going to, go ahead and execute the regulation and how they're going to do it through standard operating procedures.